Tango Man. And I'd like to shout out, because the cover has a wonderful photograph that my daughter Amy took on my 67th birthday when Marcelo and I had a tango birthday party. I'll begin with the first poem. It's called Tango Man. And there's a word in Spanish that I want you to know the meaning of in English before I start reading it. It's parrilla, and that means barbecue. And then the word porteño, it means a native of the city of Buenos Aires. Tango Man. In my dream, I was flying over Argentina, love, looking down at its form, larger than politics or geography, and darkly lit. I saw your country, Tango Man, laid out like one big steak on a cosmic parrilla, the place where sailing from Minsk and Moldavia they met, your people, to fold you into history there, where the top brass polished their boots over you, not far from the alleyway, where Evita Duarte dreamed her big dreams, and the Plaza San Martin, where Jorge Luis Borges could imagine the two of us as teenagers, and right there on his park bench, pull out an old coin and give it to us instead of his other, so that we would wake up and meet in the center of your dance palace, Tango Man. I'm an anarchist, but not the boom boom kind, you said to disarm me. Little did I know it was the absolute truth. No bedtime, no waking up time, no shaving time, absolutely no dressing time, no close the window time, at your wrist, only porteño time. So we'll always know when the Rio de la Plata streams nickel under the moon, and always pen in your hand into love time as you concoct tango after tango, trying for the perfect embrace to fit me into our love song, the Argentine tango, always written through tears. We're sad here, said Piazzolla thoughtfully, as you are sad, so loving that dark, mean, sparkling land moving beneath me, yet never enough to want to go home. Sing, Tango Man. Sing a song of no supper, no woman, no work, no currency, no government to keep you warm, bandits squatting in your house, and all the time the Plata moving between its shores, sluggish, dirty, with its terrible secrets, while black shoes lit stage violins and bandoneons wail at skirts slit, leg over leg, entwining, eso, slithering, lifting, drawing whole bodies into flight over your homeland, love, to which you never ever want to return. How about we choose sunlight, a bright day to go back, when the Plata is blue, the buildings stand still in their whiteness, and those big palo borrachos in the square, heavy with flores, and the dog walkers of Recoleta running on the grass under them with 5, 6 pups on each hand, and the flea market wide open before the cemetery gates to all the old important graves, the dead chuckling, sighing, shattering in their stone houses. Burnt down to our bones, we could fly there on eyelids of the river gulls in time, before history wrote its horrible story inside of you. When you were 13, and she was crossing the dance floor in black pants, red shoes, to invite you. Remember her incredible skin so bright, her hair like a blackbird's wing? Then you were flying, Tango Man, your very first tango. You could choose to go back into that. The second poem I'll read is called Not Being Bombed. And it begins with a quote from foreignpolicy.com. Under Trump, the United States has dropped 20,650 bombs through July 31st, or 80% the number dropped under Obama for the entirety of 2016. Actually, it's a lot of bombs for both of them. Not being bombed. I breathe in, not being bombed. Poach 2 eggs in boiling water with a little white vinegar to make the whites perfect, not being bombed. Lift them from the water, place them without breaking the yolks on 2 slices of buttered whole wheat toast without being bombed. Place your breakfast before you, unfold the newspaper, not being bombed. Place fork and knife on each side of your plate, not being bombed. Bring a Lipton tea with milk and sugar, not being bombed. Kiss you, not being bombed. The part under your mustache, not being bombed. Straighten up, not being bombed. Sit opposite you at the table with a plate, egg, toast, fork, knife, napkin, and green tea. So far, we've not been bombed. Or if you have, you've not told me yet. Or if I found out yet from someone else. Or if I have, you've not been told by me or a third party. I watch you eat, not being bombed. Eat, it's good, not being bombed. Read an entire section of the newspaper, not being bombed, while you do too, and comment on one of the articles, and launch into a very long and involved history lesson, courtesy of not being bombed. I managed to reach my own conclusions, voiced or unvoiced, about what you've told me, not being bombed. I urge you, Latin American male that you are, to carry your own plate to the sink, not being bombed. You laugh and do it, not being bombed. I clear 2 cups, forks, knives, dirty napkins, do up the breakfast dishes, including the poaching pan, not being bombed. And not being bombed, I breathe out. Marcelo's had so many positions in his country, but one of them, as a journalist, has yielded so many stories, as have the others. And this is one of his stories that I managed to capture. It's called The Cigar of Fidel. For an instant, a horse poised on the hill, happiness being the horse, human rights being the hill. Fidel Castro has come to Chile for the inauguration of Salvador Allende. And Fidel is smiling. In his breast pocket, 3 Cuban cigars. The Argentines, well loved because they produced Che, are given prime seats at the inauguration of Allende and an interview with Fidel. You know how men clap each other on the shoulder? I'm picturing Fidel clapping Marcelo on his shoulder after he's asked, "Are these the famous Cuban cigars and made especially for you?" Fidel smiles. Happiness is on the hill for an instant, and Fidel takes a cigar from his breast pocket, gives it to Marcelo. Of such small incidents, history is composed. Marcelo, although he doesn't smoke, taking the cigar, thanking Fidel. Let's say universal health care is a human right and is rolled up in the brown paper. Marcelo, when he returns to Argentina, wraps the cigar and secrets it in the depths of an attaché case. Allende is assassinated, the elegant horse falling from its moment on the crest of the greenest hill. What happens to this brief souvenir of happiness? It lies in the dark in an attaché case. Marcelo doesn't smoke, and not being in a position of power in his own country, he does not pass on the cigar with a clap on the shoulder to someone else. The crime rate continues to climb in Argentina. Then, on Marcelo's 64th birthday, which he's spending at the Fairmont Hotel in San Francisco, a message from a neighbor. His apartment has been ocupado by a gang of thugs. He flies home, calls the police, clears the apartment, now cleaned out of all valuables, photograph files, memorabilia, his dead wife's clothes. What did the Ocupas do with the souvenir of the moment of happiness from the pocket of Fidel Castro? Pawing through the attaché case and being apolitical as thugs are wont to be. Wait, hold that thought. We will examine it in its entirety and all of its ramifications when we look back at our own last election. Was the Havana cigar Fidel tossed into the garbage? Or did one Ocupa unroll the paper, take the now stale moment of happiness wrapped around universal health care and labeled with two white bands, the first saying Cohiba, the second saying Fidel Castro, in black, easy to read, and roll it between his thumb and two fingers maybe, holding it up to his fellow thugs and say, anyone want a puff of a stale Cuban cigar? Then maybe they laughed. The Ocupa laugh, not having an inkling, a clue as to what this is all about. I've never read to such silence. It's weird. Okay. This is called Homage to Machu Picchu. And we were at Machu Picchu on Marcelo's 70th birthday. I don't know the condor with his eye that blinks from this world to the next, his round white neck that awaits our final transformation on his great wings, my love, moving upward in this dark stone. I don't know the guinea pigs that swarmed toward this place through little tunnels toward their final fire, the one stone altar, an image of their kind, graced with an eye that gleams once a year with the winter solstice sun. Nor do I know the lovely moon virgins taught to weave and to cook in their solitary school here, that the chosen among them cross in white leggings through the sacred rain into the great Inca's bedchamber. More than one of them, it is said, for each night of the year, that the sun god's chosen one opened their wombs with his silver cornstalk of seed. Nor the young, pure, black llamas who steadfastly made their way up and down the steep sides of this earth, grazing, nestling into these grassy terraces until the day of their beheading, their hearts torn out of their chests, heaving, offered up to the sun. Nor the green, holy domes of the surrounding mountain gods, their eyes peering out of these jungle-encrusted slopes where orchids bud and rise, nor the chinchillas nesting, nor the shadowy pumas stalking against whom the great doors of this place were lashed shut each night. Here, only the sparrows are familiar as they jump from under the bushes. Sparrows, pecking at the ground is what they know. Scattering is what they do. Before the men hauling buckets of mud paste grout on their shoulders down these steep stair stones today. Or before the two women cleaning the WC in capri pants and aprons. Or before our Peruvian guide, Irene, with the metal lodged behind her front teeth, who's saying, please leave these windows immediately, to three teenagers draped on the sills of the openings through which the moon goddess herself would once glide. Where we are shown how the lichen is quietly eating Machu Picchu. More lichen than ever before, gift of the bodies of 2,500 tourists admitted and discharged between rising and setting suns each day. The wind trembles over this place. Clouds billow up from a distant sea. The moon moves through each of her 3 temple windows, and the sun makes golden passes over stone and spider and grass as the lichen quietly forms its small circles. To build what is here, will they sometime try to build an exact replica of Machu Picchu? How will they find another slope for it in all of Peru? These particular mountain faces looking down, and these stars so close that Orion seems to be floating on his back above it tonight. And where will they find the infinite return of the hearts of the young black llamas, and the cries of the maidens, and the ghosts of the little guinea pigs scurrying to their final fires, and the gliding over all of the great condor, his white necks fixing you and me today, arm in arm against the whole of it? To reproduce all of this, how will they ever find us? The idea from that poem came from, I finally made a pilgrimage to Lascaux, and I got there and I got to see the alternate Lascaux that was complete replica of it. And the final poem that I'll read to you is Last Tango in Paris. It's time to say goodbye the way birds do, my love, whose silent wings pull them apart from each other through the sunrise-colored air. But our tango remains moving through the long silver of the mirror at lay 18, where we opened a green door, and there they were, once more gliding through the illuminated dark, the tango dancers of Paris. And there we were once more, like the moment we first met, just the little table between us, and the click, click, click of the heels of the milongueros on the bare floor. And when we rose to dance, you, tall and lean in those cargo pants we once found on sale at the Champs-Élysées, and on your feet, the Argentine tango shoes that took you all through the city of lights this time, and I wearing my mother's dress, she who left just this spring into the arms of her own desert night, and on my feet, the shoes you once found for me, and the mirror taking us up as mirrors do, muchacha, no llores, playing, and I suddenly weeping there in the midst of those tango dancers of Paris, and they watching you bend to kiss me, just as the song was saying, don't cry, girl, don't cry. People are watching. Let's dance this tango, the farewell tango, this way in my arms. It's time to say goodbye the way birds do, my love, who silently fly out from each other through the sunrise. But our tango remains with your soft whisper. The song says, don't cry, my love. People are watching. Let's dance as before, embraced really close, just one soul between two. And we tangoing on toward the edge of the mirror. And we melting into the turning dancers. And we with the bandoneon swirling us in that enfolding of dancer and music into its own spinning velvet of time. How I wish to be there in that room again. Little candles burning low on the tables, little roses growing alive in their crystally vases, and you swooping down one more time as the birds do, my love, your pink eyelids closed, so lovely and tender, as you once more are planting your little word stars into my teardrop eyes. Thank you very much for being here today. And
Weird.
This is the book that Laurel will begin to read from, and I'd like to say a little word about my friend Laurel Feigenbaum before she reads. She was born and raised in San Francisco and Beverly Hills. She took a BA at UC Berkeley in English literature and also a master's in education and research and psychology. After her careers in family and education and business, she gathered what she calls late life courage and began writing to explore and cope with the absurd world in which we live. This led to her first book of poems, The Daily Absurd, which went into second printing last year. The book she's launching today, Matrimony, was born one afternoon at tea when she and I decided to collect and exchange manuscripts. I'll read from the blurb on the back from poet Jane Miller's words. Matrimony is a gorgeous elegy to a husband. A gorgeous elegy to a husband casts a tender and unflinching eye into aging, illness, and love's, quote, armory of memory. These poems speak to the natural absolute of death with Yeatsian candor, but they also remind me of contemporary masters of the short form, Jane Kenyon and Jean Valentine, in their precision. With a great deal of pleasure, I present Laurel Feigenbaum.
Thank you. Thank you, Doreen. Really enjoyed your poems. The first poem I'm going to read is called Elegy. Perhaps it was Mozart's magic flute, Papageno's net, the alignment of stars the night we met. On the cusp of a new year, friends gathered, played charades, kissed at midnight and after. The host brother home from medical school. Tall, tender, trim, quirky smile, bonny blue eyes, soft skin. Funny and a little drunk. Into my net there'd been Bert, who danced divinely, George, who courted with yellow roses, Jerry, who drove a convertible, and Larry, who quoted Keats and Browning, let me count the ways. But this was different. His touch, voice, silky earlobe, like Papagena, my heart sang. From the first hello, like an arrow, shot straight to a vital part, I loved him head to toe, always in my heart, my tears, my core, and more, here or not. This is called Matrimony. An elderly couple dies within hours of each other. I think, how sweet. I joke, speculate, pills, fatigue, the power of angry words. Natural causes aside, 70 years seemed unnatural. The dailiness of it, an abstraction I can't get my head around. And here we are, habits, routines, wants, needs, met and unmet, 6.5 decades, a day at a time. Folding laundry, replenishing bananas, hearing aid batteries, Sunday brunches, the week's news, celebrations, memorials, TV remote tug of wars, accommodation, forgiveness. Looking into the same blue eyes as he savors food, sucks chicken bones dry, and so deliberately, head down, maneuvers the walker around furniture to reach the bedside where I'm propped up reading, leans over in his sagging underwear for a goodnight kiss. Sleep well. This is called The Bed. We shared a Murphy wall bed in our first apartment, then graduated to a house and a queen, framed Toulouse-Lautrec's The Kiss positioned above. A bedded couple face to face, wrapped in each other's arms, a palette of yellow and red, fading to pale blue, gray, green, 50 years later, we visited them in the Diorce. Quilts, linens, mattresses, firm, foam, orthopedic changed over the years, but the kiss remained. An electric blanket with dual controls switched, he turning the temperature down, me turning it up through one long night. Restless legs, trips to the bathroom, tossing, turning for a comfortable position, waking, disturbing each other, then separate bedrooms. Some mornings he visits me in the Queen. On a recent short vacation, we share a king. After one sleepless night, I move 4 floors down, bed size of a Murphy and 7 hours sleep. Waking, I thought I'll take the elevator to 812, lie down beside him, talk of how we slept, what it was like to have separate hotel rooms, pretend we're under assumed names in a clandestine affair, young again. And this is called Ode to a Great-Granddaughter. Rosalind Jane, you came, the soft down of your cheeks, gassy smile, milky scent, wobbly brunette head nestled on my chest. Eyes open, looking around. What's it like to breathe air, hiccup, sneeze, bellow, hear a dog bark, be licked, sniffed? And your flailing arms and legs, luxuriant stretches, the reaching open oval of your mouth like a small bird's eager to feed. And in the fullness of life, your mother, my granddaughter, nursing, and the memory of my mother holding your mother. And this is called Absolutes. In my 30s, I learned there were no absolutes. In my 80s, I know change is absolute. My fingers gently massage lotion on your legs to keep thin skin supple, free of cracks, blisters, rub ointment on bruises from falls, butt and back, button collars and cuffs when you can't manage, a bow tie neither of us could, compression stockings pulled on in the morning, off in the evening. Through the barbershop window, I watch shears cut wispy gray strands of hair. Afterwards, you fish in your wallet, pay, retrieve your walker, slowly make your way to the car, and take my hand in yours. An intimacy defined in the natural world, a newt licking a female's neck to stimulate seed, sexual synergy between bees and the scented shooting stars, wings vibrating at just the right rate and spot, forcing stems to spill pollen. This is called recognition. It seemed a simple thing, an early movie, then dinner, sharing a chocolate shake, hamburgers, onion rings, just the two of us out in the world. Families, kids watching Olympics on a wide screen, music in the background. Sitting there thinking how long it had been since we'd done something like this. Almost carefree despite the walker. How normal it felt, the old normal. Few things are simple. Peel a layer and hot tears well. You look up, chocolate rimmed glass in hand. What's wrong? Nothing I can explain, I say, but it's not bad, don't worry. And the beat goes on. This is called In My Solitude. At the prospect of being alone, I imagine myself eating over the sink, grabbing cold leftovers or opening a can. Take care of yourself, they say, one day at a time. It's 7 p.m. I'm sitting at the kitchen table, a bowl of hot soup, spaghetti, and meatballs my daughter has brought. The newspaper spread out, dinner jazz on FM, an infusion of tenor sax, Mount Tam holding fast, still visible in dusky light. Later in tomorrow's early hours, I'll wake, make lists, ramp to replace stairs, research motorized chairs and cushions, fall back to restless sleep, dream of him, propelled into air on a slant ramp in a runaway wheelchair. I won't read the long poem called Ask Me, but I am reading If Only. I know there's no equivalence. The burst pipe flooding the house and the artery that gave way. If only the pumps and fans that restored our home could mend you, or that the hand of some God could sweep us into the ark along with the rescued pairs. And now I'd like to introduce my granddaughter, Leah Steinberg, who's going to read the next poem called Letter to Myself. I had submitted this to a contest in Chicago, and Leah happened to be living in Chicago at the time, and I received honorable mention. And so at the reading, Leah read for me. She was my surrogate. So here is Leah Steinberg.
Okay. Letter to myself. It doesn't seem that long ago, alone, in a quiet house. You on call at the hospital, the children out, silence welcome. As I write this, I am alone again, a widow now with Mozart for company, before silence closes in. But I wear no weeds. I think of your touch, the sweetness of it, how it moved me at 21 and still could. Your arm around my shoulder, holding hands, lying next to each other these last months, legs entwined as best we could, your arm across my belly. Calm, peaceful, melting as I had all these 66 years. How greedy can you get? I asked myself.
Thank you, Leah.
Thank you.
Okay, so I guess this is called After. Taped to the back of his closet door, I find a reminder of what was once automatic. 6 illustrated steps to tie-tying from the internet. In a drawer, a Korean War veteran's medal, cufflinks, button pins, beat Stanford, famous grandfather, stash of candy, peanut M&Ms, and lollipop. In a briefcase, a book of rhyming Yiddish couplets, shelved investments in speed reading Pimsleur Spanish. We discard potions, empty vials, berry pills and coffee grounds and dirt encased in a plastic bag. Something stops you, a memory, slippers, a razor. You weep or wail, trying to grasp what has happened. It comes in waves. You turn to routine tasks, acts that reassure, water plants, take out garbage, pay bills, return calls. Somehow another day passes. This is called Transition. Full moon low in February's western sky, then half, then crescent fading to white dot, then nothing. Out of sight, in orbit, over the ridge. Like the memorial candle there on the mantle, illuminating the room, burning for 7 days, 168 hours. Just a flicker now, as I watch it go out, leaving a tall glass cylinder empty of possibility. My husband lived to see 1,000 full moons, 95 summer skies. On clear nights, we'd gaze at the galaxy, Cygnus to Sagittarius and Scorpius, the Big Dipper pointing toward Polaris. I spin on my own now, from plural to singular, when we became I. No double V or E to lean on. Little things you never thought of. And now I'd like to introduce another granddaughter, Hillary Katsin, who is going to read, and she's going to read Hillary. Leah lives in Atlanta at the moment, but Hillary's right here in the Bay Area. And she's going to read Judy, and Judy happens to be her mother. So, Hillary, where are you, Leah?
I'm here.
Hillary, where are you? There you are.
Thank you. This poem is called Judy. In the redwood ecosystem, buds for future trees are contained in pods called burls. When the mother is felled, the trauma stimulates the burl's growth hormones. The seeds release and trees sprout around her, creating a circle of daughters. My daughter has a thing for apostrophes. She finds them in unlikely places, gazing at my date book, correcting misuse. Dinner with the Millers, plural. Approving meet me at Susie's, possessive. I appreciate this investment in punctuation, her talents bountiful as the dozens of cabbage leaves she stuffed for tonight's family dinner. Her daily calls, extended invitations, leftovers supplied, watching over me in my new role as matriarch. I liken her to a redwood offspring, a sentinel daughter standing by her mother who has fallen for one reason or another.
Thank you, Hillary. And shifting, am I reading that? I don't know. This is called What Old People Do. Some count sheep to foster sleep. I count the dead. Old boyfriends, too. Their numbers at one time equal. Now the dead have pulled ahead. Note marks of physical change. Pipes narrow, skin thins, veins bulge, leading a bluish tinge. More coughing, dripping, drooling. But don't get me wrong. It's not all downhill. Look for signs of wisdom, veneration, a seat offered on a crowded conveyance, saccharine smiles of strangers, a mailbox full of solicitations, hearing aids, lifelines of living alone if you're living alone, investments of life savings, high-rise toilet seats, discounts on cremation, and calls from family, friends who still drive, talk, walk the extra mile with you, FaceTime with a great-granddaughter. After 80, it's all gravy, her great-great-grandfather would say. And this is, there's one other in here I was going to read, but I don't think I did. I know, where is it? I know, Living Alone. Give you a little, lightness here too. This is Living Alone. After 6 decades of marriage, friends and with good intentions suggest a pet, cat or a dog for company. I tell them I don't want to be responsible or worry about another living thing. Not interested in conversing with a parrot, watching tropical fish consume each other, running with a mini pig on a leash, or changing diapers of a marmoset. Neither does a puppy in need of rescue appeal. As for cats, I don't fully trust them. Regression to a feral mean seems all too possible. I'll settle for someone else's black and white that strays into my garden and leaves parading past the window, a mouse in its mouth. I prefer passive activity, watching an Anna's hummingbird at the feeder, warding off competitors, making rounds to each plastic flower aperture, sucking up liquid sweetness as she goes. On the night herons perched in pine trees across the creek, spreading wings to dry, listening to an evening chorus of Canada geese in formation overhead, sounding like a kennel of barking dogs, and remembering the sudden burst of birdsong after we scattered and watered wildflowers, forget-me-nots, around my husband's newly set headstone, marking year 1. And the last poem is called Epilogue. When you think about it, after all said and done, we can only run so far, consume so much. But something called love is open-ended. How many times do you say of the moment, I love this or that? It can be anything. A warbler's bright olive gold mask, a soft caress, a warm bed, whitefish on an onion bagel, or the familiar opening allegro of a Brandenburg concerto. Thank you. Thank you very much. Doreen and I both thank you.